Hello, I'm Dr. Karen Braxley from the University of Georgia Intensive English Program, and I would like to talk to you today about using quotations in your writing. So why do you want to use quotations in your writing? For most people, the answer to that question is going to be, well, my professor told me I have to use some quotations. Well, your professor told you to use quotations probably because she wants your writing to appear stronger and more authoritative. Because if you use quotations in your writing, you are showing that first of all you did some research, so you're more knowledgeable. And secondly, ideally, you're going to be showing that you know how to make a point and then support that point by using a quotation. So, there are different ways that people use quotations, and one popular way, especially in English classes, is to use a quotation at the beginning of the essay. And when people use a quotation at the beginning of the essay, they're doing that as a way to grab the reader's attention. So if you have some particularly striking piece of information that you found, or some statistic that's surprising or interesting, you may want to put that at the beginning of your essay to grab your reader's attention. And that's fine for an English class, but I wouldn't do that too often, because your English teacher has probably seen that strategy many times before, so you certainly don't want to begin every essay like that. Alright, now in academic writing, you're probably going to be using quotations in the middle of your essay, and there are a couple of different ways to do that. According to a recent news story, Americans consume 3.5 pounds of candy per person at Halloween. That means that Halloween is a very unhealthy time for many Americans. So as you can see in that example, the person used a quotation and then after the quotation commented on the quotation. So let's look at another example. The fall is an unhealthy time for many Americans, especially late October, when most people celebrate Halloween by eating far too much candy. In fact, the average American consumes about 3.5 pounds of candy around Halloween. So that was a little different. In that example, the person made the point using his or her own words, and then used the quotation to support the point that he or she had just made. And actually, I think that's a better way to use a quotation. Why was it a better way? I think there are a couple of reasons. First of all, by making the point in your own words, it makes it look as though you are the expert. You've got something worthwhile to say. And then by bringing in the quotation after you made the point, you're supporting the point and showing that there's good evidence for what you had to say. In other words, that's a good way to make your writing appear more authoritative and stronger. Alright, so let's get on to the mechanics of quotations. More specifically, let's look at some differences between British and American English. So, in British English, you would use single quotation marks, and in American English you would use double quotation marks. And this can be really confusing, especially in situations where you could have one quote inside another quote. And in that situation, in British English, you'd use single quotations on the outside and double quotation marks on the inside. And in an American situation, it will be the other way around. If you've got a quote within a quote, you'll use double quotation marks on the outside and single quotation marks on the inside. Now, as if that wasn't complicated enough, there are differences in the way that quotations are punctuated in British and American English. So in British English, you will have the punctuation outside the quotation marks. So if you have a full stop or a period after your quotation, in British English, that's going to be outside the quotation marks. But in American English, commas and periods go inside quotation marks, unless you have a citation, and then in that situation, they will go after the citation. All right. So let's summarize the main points we went over today. First of all, the best way to use a quotation is to make the point in your own words first. After you've made the point, you can use the quotation to support the point that you just made. Secondly, there are some differences between British and American English. In American English, you will use double quotation marks, and the comma or the period will generally go inside the quotation mark unless you have a citation, and in that situation, the comma or the period will go after the parenthetical citation. Then in British English, you will use single quotation marks, and the punctuation is always going to be after the quotation mark. So that's a little bit easier. All right, so you can find this information on our website, iep.uga.edu, and in the next presentation, I'm going to be talking about 5 different ways to introduce quotations.